What's going on YouTube? It's Bandwagonbam here reacting to the battle for South London. Hillside versus Gas. So, Brixton Hill versus Angel Town. I got a few messages from this vid. Saying what? The creator of this video is in the live chat right now. So you can see what I'm gonna say about it live. If he's right, if he's wrong. Yeah. It was accurate. We're gonna see how accurate it is, bro. Cause like people have messaged me about this vid and said, "Bam, check this out." Okay. Let's run it.
Landmarks and culture, with London even being ranked as one of the most diverse cities in the world. These factors then lead to London attracting tourists from all around the world. However, what a lot of these tourists are unaware of is the fact that a deadly gang war has been
say my cousin, bro. What the hell?
Playing out within the streets, only miles away from London's most well-known landmarks and tourist attractions. This deadly story takes place in South London, being the area south of the River Thames. It's also to note that around 2.8 million people currently live in and around South London. Now, the borough that this gang war takes place in is that of Lambeth, which is actually among the top 5 most dangerous London boroughs. In 2023, the crime rate recorded in Lambeth was 135 crimes per 1,000 people, coming in higher than
13% of the population
surrounding boroughs. But you may be confused as to how these alliances of gangs have had such a violent and dangerous war with each other, resulting in the deaths of around 30 people, with this war seemingly going unnoticed for decades before members would begin to make UK drill music, this being the violent gang war between the Hillside Alliance and the Gas Alliance. Before this video starts, I would like to say that this road life really isn't worth it, and most times just—
I'm not gonna lie, if all of Brixton was one thing, yeah, we'd be peak.
Leads to jail or death. If you or someone you know is getting involved with the gang life, I urge you to let the people around you know and distance yourself from it. These people who are often posted wearing expensive clothes and showing off their road lifestyle aren't sharing the whole picture, as they themselves have lost friends to the roads. So if you take anything away from this video, make sure that it is to distance yourself from the gang life.
This is what we've trained for, people. Omega Incursion.
The Hillside Alliance is a group of gangs based around multiple areas within South London. These gangs include LTH, or local—
Man said, why is there bare ads? Nigga, bro, it's your channel.
Or Tulse Hill, based around the SW2 postcode, 67 or 674, based around the SW4 postcode, and parts of the SW2 postcode, and finally GID, or 55, based around Streatham Hill, within the SW16 postcode. Other gangs are also closely allied with the Hillside Alliance. These gangs include Team Raw, based around Stockwell, SW9, and Gypsy Hill, located around SE19 and SE27. These gangs also are allied under the collective known as the Hillside Alliance, with this alliance mainly being based within the London borough of Lambeth, and are more commonly just referred to as Hillside. Another gang often mentioned with these gangs is that of Harlem Spartans and Cuckoo, based within Kennington. It's important to note, however, that this gang isn't directly allied with the Hillside gangs, but does have beef with the gangs from the Gas Alliance. The Gas Alliance is a group of gangs that directly oppose the Hillside Alliance. The gangs included within the Gas Alliance are 150 or GBG, based around the Angel Town Estate, SW9, as well as CMG, which is based in the neighboring Loughborough Estate, also within the SW9 postcode. Another gang is that of 410, based around the Myatts Field Estate within SW9. The UTH gang is also a part of the Gas Alliance, and is based around Upper Tulse Hill, SW2. Finally, the gang from nearby Clapham, known as CT, is a prominent gang within the war. This gang being based around the SW4 and SW9 postcode. Another gang also closely allied with the Gas Alliance is that of 17 Wano or TOG from SW8, who share a lot of the beef against Hillside and have had a deadly rivalry with Stockwell. The gang Sirac is also involved in the war and used to be allied with Gas Gang, but after a situation between members, they would start to have a deadly rivalry with their old friends. The Sirac gang is actually EBK, which stands for Everybody Killer, meaning they have little to no affiliation with surrounding gangs other than Harlem Spartans, beefing both the Gas Alliance and the Hillside Alliance. Now that I have discussed the gangs involved in this deadly war, we can now take a deep dive into what made these groups of teenagers based on different estates begin to have a disturbing and deadly rivalry with each other. Now, it's thought that
what's copyright about this video?
Resulting in the Gas versus Hillside war.
Okay, so Hillside is just mainly black, blues, reds here and there, but yeah, mainly blacks. And Gas is just multicolored.
War began following the savage and brutal murder of a prominent member of TN vs. Hillside War.
Wait. Wait. Hey, why does it say Team Rose on this side and Team Rose on this side? Why? Is that error?
Began following the savage and brutal murder of a prominent member of TN1 known as Lil Zach. However, I will discuss this later on in the video. It's important to note that around this time, the Hillside and Gas gangs would identify under different names. 6-7 would be better referred to as BHB around this time, this being an acronym for Brixton Hill Bullies. LTH was better known as TN1, and Stockwell would be better referred to as ABM, or All Bout Money. The opposing gangs would also identify under different names, but were all linked under one gang referred to as Gas Gang, which stood for Grip and Shoot. This gang included 28s, nowadays known as 150, MZ or Murder Zone, nowadays known as Sirac, OC or Organized Crime, which is better known nowadays as the popular UK drill group 410. Other gangs around this time included Cuckoo, which was better known as BYM or Bang Your Mash. It would actually be this BYM gang that would kill a loved member of OC or 410 in 2006. This incident would then spark tit for tat incidents, resulting in 410 becoming very involved in the war, this loved member being Tiny Alien. On the 9th of June 2006, a 15-year-old member associated with the OC gang from Myatt's Field, known as Tiny Alien, or
yeah, all of this bit is way before my time. I don't even think I was even living in southeast or southwest these times.
Alex would travel on a bus with two friends onto rival BYM territory around Black Prince, with it being thought he did this in order to expand the territory of his own gang, OC. Upon reaching the Black Prince area, Tiny Alien and his two friends would get off the bus. The three members would walk around for a few minutes. At around 11 p.m., two members of the BYM gang based within Kennington would notice Tiny Alien. The two Black Prince members would approach Tiny Alien. A confrontation then ensued, and sadly ended in a BYM member stabbing Tiny Alien in the heart, with the attackers fleeing. Tiny Alien's blood brother would then phone the police before then calling their dad and alerting him of the stabbing. Tiny Alien would be taken to St. Thomas's Hospital. His dad would then also rush to the hospital. However, sadly only an hour later, Tiny Alien would be pronounced dead in the hospital, with police and detectives...
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like reacting to these stuff, you know. Like, I just had death.
launching a murder investigation. During the investigation, police would arrest and charge an 18-year-old BYM member known as Abu Sarpong, who would go on to be found guilty in 2007. And after months of investigating, Judge Gerald Gordon would go on to sentence Abu Sarpong to life with a minimum term of 14 years, most likely meaning he is out of prison now. In a statement released by Tiny Alien's cousin, they would go on to say, "Young people are the future for tomorrow, and these young people are dying. Rest in peace, Tiny Alien." Following his death, members of OC would begin to pay tribute to him on social media, with these members posting images of him. One of these images portrayed him crouching, whilst holding a pump-action shotgun toward the camera. This image then leading to news sources beginning to report on the gang that Tiny Alien was supposedly a part of, with a headline from 2008 entitled, "The Life and Death of a Gangster." As a result of the death of Tiny Alien, OC would become very closely involved with Gas Gang, and would begin to beef the gang BYM from Black Prince. It's also to note that around this time, all of the gangs in Brixton would basically be linked up and would focus most of their beef towards Peckham gangs. However, this was all going to change in the years following Tiny Alien's death. In 2007, the younger generation of gang members from Angeltown would begin to form friendships with surrounding gangs. These gangs included Tiny OC from Myatt's Field.
The only thing that's lit about these type of stuff here is that we watch them together. I swear down.
As well as MZ or Murder Zone from the Somerleyton area, more specifically the Moorlands Estate as well as Southwick House, and finally, the neighboring gang from Loughborough. These four blocks decided to unite and create Gas Gang, Gas being an acronym for Guns and Shanks, Grip and Shoot, Girls Ain't Shit, as well as other names. The Gas Gang would mainly have a rivalry with Peckham, with this beef on its own, being one of the most infamous gang rivalries. However, I won't be discussing this beef in this video. It would be in August 2007 that one of the first people would fall victim to the war between Hillside Hillside and gas, this being the death of Bowser, who repped the MZ gang from Summerleyton. On the 3rd of August 2007, a member of BHB from Brixton Hill known as Junes would get his golden chain robbed by alleged MZ members, BHB being the predecessor gang to the modern 6-7 gang from Brixton. Anyways, Junes would seek retaliation following the robbery of his chain. Hours following this incident, Junes would arm himself with a gun and would travel around Brixton searching for the MZ members. After searching for a few hours, Junes would notice Bowser, who was sitting with friends on a wall in Brixton. Junes would open fire, shooting Bowser 6 times, with one of these bullets even entering his heart. Junes would flee following this, with police and paramedics being called to the scene. Sadly, Bowser would be pronounced dead on the scene moments later, with yet another murder investigation being launched. 17-year-old Junes would quickly be apprehended and arrested days later. He would then be charged and would later be found guilty in 2008, being sentenced to life with a minimum of 21 years for this deadly shooting. Rest in peace, Bowser. It's thought that the death of Bowser would result in the modern-day beef between BHB, nowadays known as 6-7, and MZ, nowadays known as Ciroc. Whilst this incident definitely did not unite the gangs in Brixton, it definitely added tension between the gangs, and it would be the death of a TN1 member known as Lil Zach in 2010 that would separate the gangs indefinitely.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that in school, like secondary school. I remember hearing about that.
2007,
I think I like year 8. Oh, yes, yeah, I was like year 8. No, I think I was year 8.
war between a gang from Stockwell known as ABM, which is nowadays a part of the Hillside Alliance and is known as Team Raw, would have a deadly rivalry with 031 or TOG, nowadays known as 17 Wano, this gang being very closely allied with Gas Gang. The beef between ABM and 031 would be one of the main rivalries around this time, during 2007 and 2008, with 3 people dying in 3 years, the first of these being Boo. In 2007, an alleged 16-year-old member of the ABM gang, known as Boo, whose involvement in the ABM gang is often debated, with the media and his family members claiming he had nothing to do with any gangs. Anyways, in 2007, Boo would be out with a few friends. At around midnight, members of the nearby rival gang 031 would spot Boo with his friends. The members would start to chase Boo, who would then be shot multiple times by the 031 members. Sadly, Boo would be pronounced dead on the scene, with police arriving moments later, putting up police tape and launching an investigation. Later,
ain't that the actual Stockwell block though? Like that's the actual block.
in 2007, a man would be charged with the death of Boo. However, I couldn't find if he was sentenced or not. Rest in peace, Boo. Following the death of Boo, his family would come out and would state that he had nothing to do with the gangs in the area and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But either way, rest in peace, Boo, or Abu Kar Muhammad. During this time in Brixton, gangs in the area would be somewhat affiliated, with members of BHB and Gas Gang even having a song together from around 2008 and 2009. Around this time, a gang from Tulse Hill would become very prominent, this being TN1, or Trust No One, Tell No One. This gang was closely allied with the Stockwell-based gang ABM, which I just spoke about, as well as gangs based around Brixton Hill, like BHB. On the 14th of March 2008, an alleged member of the OC gang known as Ratty would be returning from his friend's house in the Myatts Field estate. At around 8 p.m., rival gang members would pull up and would start shooting toward Ratty. Ratty got hit in the head as a result of the oncoming bullets and would be rushed to hospital. However, sadly, would end up dying a day following the shooting, with police then launching a murder investigation.
Do you know how clocked? Americans survive. Yeah, Americans can survive more gunshots than UK. I don't know if their body's just built different because like they're always getting shot out there or what. But like, Americans have like been sprayed out like 30 times and that, and they're alive. In the UK, they've been using shotgun. That's true.
This investigation has seen little to no arrests made 15 years later, with the murder being unsolved till this day. Whilst it is not
I've been shot. Hey, don't say that if you ain't been shot, you know. You don't want to put that in the air, bro.
known who killed Ratty, many theories do fly around the internet. What is known is that the man that supplied the gun used in the murder was quickly arrested and charged. This man would later receive 12 years for this. Rest in peace, Ratty. In 2015, police would rule the murder of Ratty as gang-related and would begin to publicly name the OC gang, as well as its rivals. Although Ratty's family claimed that he had no relation to any gangs within the area. New members from BHB would begin to get active in the streets, an example of this being Dimsy, who would later become very—
Do you know what it is? Even if you're not a gang member, but you're from the area back then, and even now, they'll just put you in the gang just so, to the public, it don't look like they're in harm. it makes it look like, oh, only if you're a gang member you can get killed, but no, civilians get killed as well.
Very popular within the UK drill scene. A video would resurface in 2017. This video showed Dimsey rapping in 2008. The music video portrayed a very young Dimsey rapping whilst walking around his estate. In this song, you can
Dimsey
actually hear him shout out BHB, or simply just BH, which most likely stands for Brixton Hill. He would rap BH bullies, bully the streets. In 2008, the beef between 031 and ABM would once again heaten up, with the death of a 031 member seemingly being a retaliation for the death of Boo a year prior, this being Moody, who was a very prominent member of 031 Wandsworth Road. In July 2008, a member associated with the 031 gang based around Wandsworth Road, known as Moody, would be with a few of his friends. During this time, he would even be—
Bro, hey, how old are you? Hey, how old are you? Because I know you're not of age, bro. You probably wasn't even born in 2014.
Be pictured with his friends having a water gun fight. But what no one knew was that only 2 hours later, Moody would sadly be stabbed and killed by rival ABM members. At around 7 p.m., Moody would be returning to his home in order to change his clothes, as his current clothes were wet from the water fight he had with his friends. On his way home, 6 members of the rival ABM gang would spot Moody. The members would attack Moody, this then turning deadly when knives would be drawn, and Moody would be stabbed multiple times. Moody would be pronounced dead on the scene, with police and paramedics arriving on the scene minutes later. Police would launch a murder investigation shortly after the murder. The killer of Moody would never be arrested nor identified. However, 3 members that were present and attacked him would be arrested and sentenced for the murder. 1 member would be given 3.5 years in jail. The second man would be given 2 years and 9 months. And the final man would be given a year's detention and a training order. The judge on this case would then also release a statement saying, "Your victim was rendered defenseless and the killer was able to stab and kill him. Rest in peace, Moody." After the death of Moody, 031 members would be seeking retaliation, and in the following year, they would get their retaliation, killing a loved member of ABM in one of the most gruesome ways I think I have ever heard. This being the—
Hey, well, my brother used to have a hat like that, like the Adidas one, the flipping brown one. I remember he had that still.
death of Shays from ABM. In April 2009, a member associated with the ABM gang, known as Shays, would be chilling with friends in Stockwell. What he didn't know was that a member of the rival 031 gang would be walking his dog in the area. This member being Blizzard. Blizzard would spot Shays whilst walking with his dog. Shays would then lock eyes with Blizzard and would make an attempt to escape. Shays would begin to run, with Blizzard then letting his pitbull cross dog off a lead. The dog would then chase Shays, who by this point was attempting to jump a fence. The dog would catch up and would drag Shays down. Blizzard then ran up with a knife and began stabbing Shays multiple times. After a few minutes—
Bro, they're moving like... they're moving like feds, because that's what feds do to man them, you know. Like, if you run from the Jakes, they let out the K9 unit, and you're done. They would just come behind you and handcuff you.
the attack would end when Blizzard would flee the scene, with witnesses stating he was covered in blood by this point. Police and emergency services would arrive moments later, with Shays being pronounced dead on the scene. A murder investigation would be launched following this. However, detectives would actually have a hard time connecting the killer to the scene, this mainly being due to the fact that a dog had also attacked Shays. But in 2010, police would arrest Blizzard and charge him for the murder. He would later be found guilty and would be given life with a minimum of 24 years.
Hey, which one's
Rest
that?
in peace, Shays. 2009 was one of the first years that members associated with the ABM gang would begin to rap. An example of this was Young Teflon, who would release an ABM freestyle in October 2009. Other members included Mucky and Loops, who would also release music videos in 2008 and 2009. Around 2009, members from both Gas Gang and BHB would seemingly be affiliated, even having an old song recorded together, featuring 6-7 member Dimsey and Gas Gang members. This just showing that all of these members were actually once friends. However, this was all due to change in 2010, when a loved member of the gang TN1 would sadly fall victim to the streets, causing a massive divide in Brixton. This then resulting in what we know today as Hillside versus Gas. The incident that would spark all of this would be the death of Lil Zach. On the 2nd of July 2010, a member associated with the Tulse Hill gang, TN1, known as Lil Zach, would enter school. Upon entering school, it was compulsory for him, along with all other students, to hand in their phone. On this day, however, Lil Zach would refuse to hand his phone in. Zach would then have a conversation with a teacher at this point, and only moments later, Zach would seemingly catch eyes with a car full of gas gang members who were outside of the school. Zach would then tell a friend, "That's them, that's them." The gas gang members would exit the vehicle and would approach another student outside of the school, stabbing him in the arm. This student would then walk back into the school in an attempt to escape the attackers. The gas gang members decided not to pursue the student that had already been stabbed, but instead 15-year-old Zach, who would begin to run. Zach would make it around 400 feet before the gas gang members would catch up, stabbing him multiple times.
Deep this, you lot, is broad daylight. It's broad daylight, and these men are outside doing this.
Gas gang members would flee following the attack, with police and paramedics arriving moments later at around 8:50 a.m. Lil Zach would be rushed to a South London hospital, but would sadly be pronounced dead an hour and 30 minutes later. A murder investigation would be launched following this, and only a day later, on the 3rd of July, 4 people were arrested in connection to the murder. These members included Kyle Kinghorn, who went by the street name Clicks, Helder Demarace, or Mad H, Jamal Moore, or J-Kid, and finally Ricardo Giddings, who went by the name Maggie. All 4 of these men were a part of Gas Gang. In 2011, all 4 would be found guilty and would be sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years, 16 years, another 16 years, and 14 years. Rest in peace, Lil Zachs.
So that means these men are going to be out now. These men must be out by now.
It was actually revealed in court following the death of Lil Zach that he had attended a Youth Against Violence conference and would even speak about wanting to change his lifestyle and leave the streets. In a comment posted under a Reddit thread titled, "Have you ever had a close friend become a murderer?" a user would respond and would write about how he grew up with the Gas Gang members that would go on to kill Lil Zach. The user would also write about how it wasn't surprising as the area they were from, being Brixton, would see multiple murders, even stating they knew a few other murderers from the area. The death of Lil Zach would result in Brixton splitting, with certain members of TN1 wanting to slide and get revenge for their fallen friend, and others siding with the Gas Gang members. This then leading to surrounding gangs having to pick who they would back in the beef. This resulted in nearby BHB, nowadays known as 6-7, ABM and GID, or 5-5, deciding to back TN1, which later became LTH, or Lower Tulse Hill. A gang from Upper Tulse Hill would decide to affiliate themselves with Gas Gang around this time. Beefing LTH, 6-7, ABM and GID, this massive split leads to the beef that we see today between LTH, 6-7, M Block and GID. These gangs opposing the rival UTH or Up Top 150 or AD 410 CT from Clapham, as well as the 17 Wano gang, which is also referred to as 031. 2011 was actually quite a deadly year, with it being known that 2 alleged affiliates of the TN1 gang would be killed. These included both Ziggy and Nana, who were both killed in 2011. Since then, however, their involvement in the gang war has been debated, as they were allegedly just affiliates. Rest in peace, both Ziggy and Nana. It would also be in 2011 that the war between the Hillside-affiliated gang ABM and the gas-affiliated gang 031 would get deadly, with rival members carrying out a deadly attack on Oxford Street, resulting in the tragic death of an ABM member known as Tuna Raw, with his friends then creating the set in his name referred to nowadays as Team Raw. On the 26th of December 2011, a member from the ABM gang, known as Tuna Raw or Nuts, would travel to central London with friends, more specifically Oxford Street. As he had intentions of spending his Christmas money on clothes, upon reaching Oxford Street, a rival gang member known as Jermaine Joseph would spot him. Tuna Raw would notice this, and a confrontation would ensue between these 2 members. It's alleged that Tuna Raw would then chase Jermaine Joseph into a footlocker. Once Jermaine Joseph would reach the footlocker, he would then fight back and would stab Tuna Raw twice in the chest, with so much force that the knife snapped, breaking from the handle. Jermaine Joseph would flee the scene following the stabbing, with police and paramedics quickly arriving on the scene. Upon reaching the crime scene, Tuna Raw had bled to death outside of the footlocker. A murder investigation launched by police saw the arrest of Jermaine Joseph days later. During his trial, he told the court that he acted in self-defense, as Tuna Raw had chased him into the footlocker. In the end, the charges put against him would be dropped, and he would be acquitted of the murder charge. Rest in peace, Tuna.
Wait. How can that act as self-defense if like the man shouldn't have Shanks out in central London? So what would that be? How is that possible for it to be self-defense? That don't make no sense.
Tuna Raw or Nuts. Following the death of Tuna Raw, members of ABM would become better known as M Block and Team Raw, this name paying homage to Tuna Raw, who was killed on Boxing Day 2011. So for simplicity's sake, I will be referring.
He got chased into the footlocker, could be possession. Nah, man, it shouldn't work. It don't work like that, bro. It don't work like that. If you're caught, then you're caught more time. Like, if he wasn't disarmed. If he was disarmed and then he used it, then cool, that's self-defense. Well, if I got one and you got one, that's not self-defense. I'm pretty sure even if like a robber breaks into my house, yeah, and I bore him up, I still get in trouble for that, bro. I still have to do my life sentence. 100%. Like, it don't work like America, bro. That is mad. That is mad.
To ABM as Team Raw, as this is what they went by around this time and still go by. The main rivals of Team Raw, known as 031, would also change their name around this time, changing their name to Team Trizzy, paying homage to a fallen member of 031 that died in July 2012. This name was prominent for a few years, but has since faded out, with the members of this gang nowadays going by either 17 Wano or TOG, which stands for Tape Off Gang. 2012 would also see the first instance of members involved in the beef-making music. Members from the Myats Field Collective OC would drop songs around this time, an example of this being Tiny Sykes, who was quite consistent around this time. In 2012, members from Brixton Hill that repped the gang BHB or Brixton Hill Bullies would begin to go by 674 around this time, with young members like Dimsy, LD, and Monkey. It's also important to note that the 6-7 gang did also go by the name OSG, or On-Site Gang, which they actually reference in their new name. When the numbers 674 are typed onto a trap phone keypad, the letters OS and G are visible. Younger members from Brixton would also start repping the gangs. An example of this would be PR, who we now know as PRSAD. PR would originally rep the 150 gang based around Angeltown, but would switch sides around 2013 when the beef would begin. 150 gang based PR, who we now know as PRSAD. PR would originally rep the 150 gang based around Angeltown, but would switch sides around 2013 when the beef would begin to get hot, with old tweets even emerging showing PR, showing his love to a dead 150 member known as SQ, which is crazy, as around a year later, he would appear in multiple 6-7 music videos, in which the rappers dissed SQ. It's also to note that in 2012, a member associated with the gang 031, known as Pricey, would be stabbed to death at a nightclub in Reading. The attacker would later go on to be arrested, and is now serving life with a minimum of 24 years.
Is this guy in the beef, or is he just naming someone that like got killed that used to bang?
Rest in peace, Pricey. 2013 would roll around and would be a very deadly year in the beef, with members starting to drop UK drill songs that gained millions of views, as well as in-house beef beginning to occur between the MZ or Ciroc gang and 150, resulting in these groups of friends becoming fierce enemies. In 2013, members of the gang MZ, based around Somerleyton, would be with 150 members in a South London hospital. The members would spot rivals, and a massive brawl would occur. It is known that a prominent member of 150, known as Sneakbo, and a prominent member of MZ, known as 5 Star, would be present. Police would be quick to shut this brawl down, and would actually arrest both Sneakbo and 5 Star. These two members were taken in for questioning, with it then being alleged that Sneakbo from 150 would snitch on 5 Star and the other MZ members. Months later, 5 Star would post the court papers on Twitter. These papers showed Sneakbo snitching about the hospital incident. Following this, the MZ gang would begin to go by Siru and Sirac. They also go by 727, which, like 67, when typed onto a trap phone, it spells out the word rack. Sirac would also start to beef their former friends 150, as well as all of the gangs affiliated. This then meaning the Sirac gang pretty much has beef with every gang in Brixton, apart from Harlem Spartans, this only being due to family ties. 2013 would also see the death of a loved member of 150 known as Pistol P, who would be killed by Team Raw members. On the 17th of February 2013, Team Raw members would seemingly get the drop on a member affiliated with the 150 gang, known as Pistol P, who was at a birthday party in southwest London. The members would travel from their block in Stockwell to Wandsworth, where they would then go into one of the tower blocks that held the birthday party. Upon reaching the tower block, the Team Raw members would spot Pistol P standing in a stairwell. 4 members of Team Raw would then start to attack Pistol P, who would be stabbed multiple times in the leg. One of these stab wounds to the leg would actually sever an artery, causing Pistol P to bleed profusely on the scene. The 4 attackers would flee moments later, with police and paramedics arriving moments later. Sadly, Pistol P would be pronounced dead on the scene, with a murder investigation being launched. In December 2013, all 4 of the members would be found guilty. 3 of the members would be given life with a minimum of 17 years, whilst the 4th man was given life with a minimum of 21 years. Rest in peace, Pistol P. It's also known that in 2013, members of 6-7 would catfish a 1 150 member known as J-Bands. J-Bands would be getting close with a girl that allegedly knew 6-7 members. J-Bands would go out with this girl. Whilst he was with the girl, a member of 6-7 would pull up and would shoot J-Bands in the head. Luckily, J-Bands would go on to make a recovery following the shooting. This incident just showing how tapped the beef was getting. In recent years, younger members of 6-7, like Dope Smoke and PR Sad, are starting to refer to 6-7 as Catfish Gang. In PR Sad's breakout track
Oh, that's why they call them man that.
titled One Wish,
If I was him, I wouldn't be linking no more girls. I swear down, I'll have just the craziest trust issues.
he would rap the following line: Catfish Gang don't believe in Snap. 3 got shot because they fiend for Vag. As well as in LD's Plugged In, where he rapped, they wanna know about Catfish Gang. Tell 'em, go ask Rose and Bands. On the 10th of December 2013, 2 members of 150 being Styx and M-Darg would link up and would drop a serious diss track towards 6-7, this being titled It's Cracking. 6-7 would end up replying, using the same beat and flow on a track titled It's Frying, which was released in February 2014. Gangs like 6-7 and 150 would start to blow in 2014, gaining millions of views on songs like It's Frying by 6-7 and the song titled Salute, released by 150. Even though these gangs gained millions of views, what people didn't know was that the war was continuing in the streets, with this just being the start. 2014 would also see a younger member of 150 known as SQ beginning to make music, often rapping alongside his friends, who are also from 150. SQ seemed as if he could maybe make a career from the music. But what no one was expecting was that only months later, he would sadly be killed by rival 6-7 members. On the 25th of February 2014, a member of 6-7 known as Incy would travel onto rival 150 territory based around Angel Town. Incy would spot a 150 member and would begin to chase him. SQ, who was driving through the Angel Town block, would notice that Incy was chasing one of his friends. SQ would jump out of his car and would attempt to intervene and save his friend. Incy would then move his attention toward SQ, who would then be attacked and would be stabbed multiple times by Incy. Incy would then flee the scene moments later, with paramedics rushing SQ to hospital. However, 2 days later, on the 27th of February 2014, SQ would sadly be pronounced dead in the hospital, with a murder investigation being launched. Incy would quickly be arrested and charged for the murder. During the trial, members of 6-7 would post him, an example of this being Monkey from 6-7, who would post a picture of Incy with the caption, "Free Squincy." Members would start to refer to Incy as Squincy, as he was the killer of SQ. In December 2014, Incy—
Oh my days, I never knew that. I thought that was actually his name.
would be found guilty of manslaughter and would be sentenced to 12 years for the murder of SQ. Rest in peace, SQ. Around the end of 2014, members of both 150 and 6-7 would be blowing within the drill scene. 6-7 would drop the UK drill anthem titled Live Corn, which gained millions of views, currently sitting on 7.3 million views. Now, I said that Ciroc had started to have a rivalry with 150. This would seemingly get very deadly in 2015, when a member of 150 would be stabbed by Ciroc members. This 150 member would go on to make a recovery, with it being alleged Jay Munna would then go on to snitch to police about the stabbing. Ciroc would hear that this member had allegedly snitched and would gain his location, killing him in one of the most brutal and deadly ways. In August 2015, a member associated with Ciroc known as Fox would be lurking for rivals. He would seemingly gain
He looked like a big ass man.
access to the location of a house party that members of the Loughborough CMG gang would be attending. A member known as Jay Munna would be present at this party. During the party, Fox from Ciroc would pull up in a car and would begin to confront Jay Munna. A fight would ensue before Fox would return to his car, running Jay Munna over, crushing his head in the process. This then leading to Jay Munna being pronounced dead on the scene. Police arrived minutes later and would end up arresting Fox days later, with an investigation into this shocking murder being launched. Fox would end up being charged for the murder. However, the murder charge would be dropped and he would instead be charged with manslaughter. Fox would go on to be sentenced. However, I couldn't find how long he was sentenced to. Rest in peace, Jay Munna. Around this time, members of LTH would begin to get involved in the beef, with it being known that a member of LTH would shoot a member of Ciroc in the head, this member being known as Stabber around the time, but has more popularly become known as SR. Whilst it looked like members of the Gas Alliance weren't looking to retaliate, this would all change in the late 2010s, with gangs like UTH joining the Gas Alliance and beginning to beef the Hillside Alliance. Chaos. In 2017, an older member of TN1 known as Chaos would sadly be killed in a car crash. Chaos would actually feature on a song with old TN1 members around 2011. This song was titled R.I.P. Zach and was a tribute to Lil Zach, who died in 2010. Rest in peace, Chaos. It would be around this time that a member of Team Raw would go viral in the UK drill scene, this member being Reeks MB, who would drop a song titled No Face with LD from 6'7". This song gained millions of views, currently sitting on 5.9 million views. Members from the nearby
I'm not gonna lie, we need a Reeks back in the drill scene, bro. His music, straight away come out with Blueprint.
a gang GID or 5-5 would also begin to get active in this war around this time. This mainly being due to the fact they had affiliation with nearby 6-7. They wouldn't be that active in the war until around 2017, when a loved member of GID known as YK would be stabbed to death by a member of UTH, allied with the Gas Alliance, resulting in GID becoming allied under the Hillside Alliance, often riding onto the Gas Alliance. On the 31st of December 2017, YK and a few friends would board a bus in Tulse Hill. During this bus ride, YK would spot a member of UTH known as Shocks and two other people. YK would appear as aggressive and would confront the three members. When the UTH members realized that YK was on the bus, they would quickly leave the bus in an attempt to escape YK. However, YK would then follow them off the bus. By this point, two of the three UTH members would be seeking refuge in a store. Whilst Shocks was outside, YK would flash a knife he had on him at the time towards Shocks, who then retrieved his own knife, stabbing YK once in the heart. Shocks would quickly flee the scene, with YK being pronounced dead on the scene. Later in 2021, Shocks would be arrested and charged for the murder, but would end up beating the murder case on the basis of self-defense. Rest in peace, YK. YK's friends from Mitcham would go on to make tribute songs to him, this just showing how loved YK was in Brixton, with it being known he had connection to the Lower Tulse Hill Gang and 6-7 Gang. It's also to note that another member associated with the gangs died on this same day, this being Shaq, who repped the LTH Gang as well as the AP Gang in Enfield. However, the death of Shaq wasn't due to any Gas versus Hillside beef, but instead a drug dispute with a member of AP from Enfield. Rest in peace, Shaq. 2018 would roll around, with new youngers starting to get active within the war. An example of this being Dope Smoke, who actually repped the RP gang based around Rupel Park. But in recent years, this gang has just become 6-7. Dope Smoke would go on to become a very popular UK drill rapper years later, and would even be facing a murder charge at one point. 2018 saw the rise of rappers from LTH like C1 and J-Sav. It would be J-Sav that would go on to make noise in the streets, even featuring on a Next Up freestyle with C1. 150 would be looking for a get-back for the members that they had lost, and would seek out J-Sav as he was seriously making a noise within the streets. And it would be in November 2018 that members of 150 would ride out onto Lower Tulse Hill. J-Sav would be waiting for his mum to pick him up, and what he didn't know was that bloodthirsty members of 150 would be on the lurk. Two cars containing the 150 members drove up to J-Sav. The members then jumped out and stabbed J-Sav multiple times in the stomach, sadly all whilst his mum was watching nearby. The members then fled the scene in those same cars, with J-Sav's mum then alerting police. However, J-Sav would sadly not survive this attack, being pronounced dead moments later. Police opened a murder investigation, but couldn't link anyone to the crime, with it still being unsolved. Rest in peace, J-Sav. Many theories about who killed J-Sav flew around the internet following his death, with it often being thought that members of 150 or AD were responsible. In 2018, members from Harlem Spartans were blowing in the drill scene, with rappers like SA, Biss, and Low Ski gaining millions of views on their drill songs. Harlem actually had a deadly rivalry with the Gas Alliance, but is not in fact allied with the Hillside Alliance. Harlem is only really affiliated with nearby Ciroc, this mainly being due to the fact that members of both Ciroc and Harlem Spartans are related. Example of this being Latz and R1, with Latz then sadly dying in 2018, resulting in his cousin R1 riding out for him and killing a rival member from the Gas Alliance.
Okay.
This game, you're not.
On the 25th of July 2018, Latz or SA from Harlem Spartans and a member of Moscow 17 known as Mimes would ride out onto rival 150 territory. The members would be armed with a gun. Upon reaching the territory belonging to 150, Latz would spot a member alleged
You should
to
get an ad blocker.
He would
Bro,
attempt to shoot him. However,
is
the
your
gun
channel.
would then run toward Latz and stab him multiple times. Mimes would then drive off with Latz on the back of the moped. Mimes attempted to take Latz to a nearby hospital. However, Latz would be in and out of consciousness, and eventually would pass out on the back of the bike. This is when Mimes would supposedly push Latz off the back of the moped and would shout to nearby civilians, telling them to get him to hospital. Sadly, however, Latz was pronounced dead moments later, with a murder investigation being launched days later. It was thought that would be arrested for the murder, but would have the charges dropped on the basis of self-defense. Rest in peace, Latz. It's even alleged that Incognito from Moscow 17 would have been asked to go on the ride out with Latz, but declined. And after learning that Latz died, he would write on his Snapchat saying, "When bro called me, I should have went. It's my fault." Incognito was actually a very prominent member in the Zone 2 vs Moscow 17 war. This is another video in itself that I will be making. Sadly, however, only a week later, Incognito would have been stabbed to death by a man after attempting to steal a Rolex. Latz actually had a cousin, this being a member of Sirac known as R1, and upon hearing the news that his cousin had died, R1 would seek retaliation on the 150 gang, this then resulting in the incident that occurred in 2019, that then led to the deaths of 4 members all in a 1-year time gap, with 2019 being one of the most dangerous years in the beef. On the 21st of February 2019, a member associated with the 150 gang known as Thumps would be standing outside of Lipton Youth Center. What he didn't know was that a violent and dangerous member of Sirac would be lurking around the area.
I didn't even know we got youth centers
anymore. He
anymore.
only had one thing on his mind, this being avenging his cousin Latz. R1 would notice Thumps outside of the youth center. Thumps would make an attempt to escape by running into the main room of the youth center, but would trip and fall, leading to R1 getting closer. Thumps would be able to get up and carry on running, but would then sadly trip and fall, with R1 catching up and stabbing him multiple times in the thigh. R1 then fleeing. Police and paramedics arrived shortly later and attempted to treat Thumps, who had lost a lot of blood at this point. This then sadly leading to Thumps being pronounced dead moments later as a result of blood loss. R1 would quickly be identified as the attacker and would be facing the murder charge. In the end, R1 would be found guilty and would be sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years. Rest in peace, Thumps. One name that often gets brought up by rappers from the Hillside Alliance is Reckless, who is actually an older from the UTH gang that even appeared on an old freestyle from 2011. This song being titled Mama Told Me. This song didn't gain that much attention, currently sitting on around 7.3 thousand views. Watching this emotional music video nowadays is very sad when you come to learn that a month after the death of Thumps, he would sadly be shot dead. Only a month later, on the 29th of March 2019, a member of UTH known as Reckless would be lured to an apartment by alleged Hillside members. However, upon entering the apartment, he would be shot in the head, dying on the scene. Paramedics would arrive on the scene moments later and would even bring Reckless back to life for a brief amount of time before he then sadly died. His killers have never been identified, with many people speculating who actually killed him. Rest in peace, Reckless. In June 2019, a member of 6'7" known as Giant would be in a park within Wandsworth. He would notice a member associated with CT and 37 known as Stomps. Giant would confront Stomps, and a violent altercation ensued. Giant stabbed Stomps multiple times, killing him on the scene. Police would arrest Giant days later and would put the charges toward him. Later in 2020, he would be found guilty and would be sentenced to life with a minimum of 25 years. Rest in peace, Stomps. In Harlem Spartans' extremely disrespectful track, He's Dead, they would call for the freeing of their friend R1, where they said, "Free R1, that's shanks and chests." They also said that a member of 410 was stabbed in the same week that R1 killed Thumps. The next deadly incident between the Hillside Alliance and Gas Alliance would occur around 2 months later in August 2019, this then leading to the Get Back killings taking place in South London. In August 2019, Dope Smoke's younger brother Double S would often ride out onto rival CT
I didn't even know Dope Smoke even had a younger brother. I didn't know that.
territory in Clapham, as they were Hillside's main rivals, being allied with the Gas Alliance. On the 15th of August 2019, S1 from CT would be walking with a girl, believed to be the girlfriend of Nutty, who was also a CT member. S1 would notice Double S from 6'7", who would be sitting on a wall. S1 would then approach Double S, fist bumping him. Double S then started asking S1 where he was from, as he believed he was a part of the rival gang CT from Clapham. S1 would then deny involvement with any gang, and would seemingly walk away. After walking a few hundred feet, the girl would call Nutty, as they were being followed by Double S. Once Double S would catch up, he would stab S1 in the neck and chest multiple times. Sadly, S1 would be pronounced dead before Nutty could arrive on the scene, with police and paramedics arriving moments later. Double S was arrested days later and would be charged with the murder of S1. Eventually, in the end, Double S would be given 14 years for the murder. Rest in peace, S1. Dope Smoke would be heavily affected, as he had in a way lost his younger brother. But it wouldn't end for Dope Smoke, who would be charged with murder himself, and losing another one of his closest friends to jail, this being VD, who was the killer of Lil D from the LG8 gang. Dope Smoke would also be arrested for this murder, and after months of being on trial, VD would be found guilty and would receive life with a minimum of 19 years for the murder, whilst Dope Smoke would have all charges dropped against him, being let free in 2020. Rest in peace, Lil D. Dope Smoke would actually rap about these incidents in his leaked song titled Deeper Than Drill, which was a very heartfelt song. In it, he raps, "I bust case, but my didn't bust that. Looking at his mum in the dock like fuck fam. They took her only son. but he took it like a tug, this referencing the murder that VD was arrested and found guilty for. He also rapped, "Real talk, I put my mum through mad stress. I can't lie. How she coped was a madness. 2M's both sons locked because of gang shit."
Damn.
This referring to how both Dope Smoke and his brother Double S were facing serious murder charges around 2019 and 20. 2020 would start, and would see the beef with Team Raw and gangs from the Gas Alliance exploding, resulting in 2 members of Team Raw dying in a 1-month time period. The first of these would be a Team Raw member known as 16 Shot, who was actually a rapper, and would feature on songs with other Team Raw members like Clap-A-Lot and C-Figures. Anyways, on the 20th of August 2020, 16 Shots would gain access to the location of Styx from 150, who was hosting a birthday party for himself. 16 Shots would ride out onto the Angeltown estate in a stolen car. However, this car would crash on the estate. 16 Shots then got out of the car with a machete, attacking Styx from 150. Other members of 150 would notice this, and would chase 16 Shots for a few hundred feet, before 16 Shots was stabbed 30 times by 150 members. A murder investigation was launched following this, and would result in 2 150 members being arrested. This included a member being known as KTN, who would go on to be found guilty, and sentenced to 17.5 years for this murder. During the trial, KTN's music was actually used. In one of his songs, he labeled himself a Flick Knife Pro. Rest in peace, 16 Shots. It would be around this time that members of Harlem Spartans would drop the insanely disrespectful track titled He's Dead. This song
So if they're using music, yeah, can't you rap gospel type music, but just be on violence? And then if you get bagged for something and they check your music, it's gospel music, bro. If they're going based off music anyway.
song featured a verse that disrespected multiple dead rivals. Now,
Smart
I'm
plan.
saying this, as only a few months later, members of the CT gang from Clapham would fire back and release their version to this song, being titled Put in a Spliff. This song also featuring a verse in which the CT members would name multiple dead rivals. Anyways, in 2021, a member of 150 known as Bally would be standing with two girls, one of these being his sister. What he didn't know was that members of Sirac and Harlem Spartans would be lurking. Moments later, the members would run up to Bally with guns and would shoot him multiple times. Bally was killed on the scene, with video even emerging showing his sister's reaction after the death. An investigation was launched following this, and only a day later, police would arrest SD from Harlem Spartans whilst he was at the airport. Since then, though, SD has been released, and the murder has subsequently gone unsolved. Multiple tit-for-tat shootings and murders would take place around this time, with members involved in the war starting to move cautiously within the streets. And it would be on the 30th of October 2022 that 6-7 members would catch another rival, this being Perm from the gang CT. Perm actually had a very influential run in the UK drill scene around the early days, dropping anthems like Dottie and the Ride, which actually featured a real shotgun in the music videos. This song gained thousands of views, currently sitting on around 900,000 views, so it would come as a surprise when Perm would be shot dead, with the killers never being found, and even resulting in the death of an innocent bystander. On the 30th of October 2022, alleged members from the rival 6-7 gang would pull up on Railton Road within Brixton. The members would notice Perm in a car and would begin to let off shots. Perm would then use the vehicle and would attempt to escape by driving for a few moments. Perm would sadly collide with an innocent Deliveroo driver whilst trying to evade his attackers. This Deliveroo driver would die on the scene. The attackers would end up shooting Perm multiple times, with Perm being killed on the scene. Another member of 150 would also supposedly be shot, this being Cones. It had been alleged that Perm was very prominent in the streets, often catching rivals. However, I won't speculate on this. Since the death of Perm and the innocent Deliveroo driver, no one has been arrested or charged for the double murder, with Crime Stoppers even putting out a £20,000 reward to anyone with information. Brooker from 6-7 was originally arrested for the double murder. However, he would go on to be released days later. Rest in peace, both Perm and Guilherme Messias da Silva. Recently, in 2023, members of Sirac would ride onto Angeltown territory and would stab a member of 150 known as Skeng Roy multiple times. Skeng Roy would sadly die on the scene, with yet another police investigation occurring. Since then, however, no one has been arrested or charged for the murder, with CCTV even being released showing the members running away. Many theories fly around the internet about who was responsible. However, until someone has been charged and found guilty.
Because they didn't see them running with no weapon, they can't say nothing. They could have said they was running from it. They could have just said they was running anyway, bro. Like, they saw niggas pull up and they ran off.
guilty? I guess we will never know. Rest in peace, Skeng Roy. Following the death of Skeng Roy, rival members would be looking for retaliation for their fallen friend, and on the 3rd of October 2023, alleged 150 members would get back, stabbing a Ciroc affiliate known as KK or Smalls on Cold Harbor Lane within Brixton. KK would actually be attacked in front of terrified shoppers, who would call police. Police then arriving moments later. Sadly, KK would be pronounced dead on the scene. A murder investigation launched by police has seen the arrests of multiple teenagers, who are yet to be charged. Rest in peace, KK. KK's friends would actually post him following his death, with a member of Ciroc known as Trap SG, posting an image at KK's funeral with the caption saying, "Bro coulda chose this life, but chose not. Rest easy, my boy." The most recent incident to take place within the beef would be the death of J-Sav from the 17 Wano gang, which is better known as TOG. J-Sav was allegedly set up by one of his own friends, who then shot him dead in 2024, with it being thought that his killer was a 150 member, which is crazy as 150 and 17 Wano are both gangs that are allied. Anyways, after the news that J-Sav had
So are them ends still cool now or no?
died reached his ops, they would begin to go live, with a member of LTH known as G41 going live with the title of the live being Backdoor Pack. AK from 6'7", then would post a story with the song Backdoor by Lil Durk playing in the background. But I guess we will truly find out once a full murder investigation has taken place and someone has been charged. Rest in peace, J-Sav. Since the death of J-Sav, no other incidents have occurred within the streets. If you have learned anything from this video, however, make sure that it is to stay out of the streets, as this road lifestyle that you see these rappers living often only leads to jail or death. Oftentimes these rappers have lost most of the people around them to the roads. An example of this being Dope.
Nah, man. Hey, RP, everyone lost, bro. Like, for real, bro. That's... Apparently it was an accident. Accident or not, bro. You gotta pay your dues now, man. Gotta pay your dues, bro. That's how it goes. If you're trying to be an alliance, somebody does something dumb, gotta pay your dues at the end of the day, bro. That's the shit goes, bro. But now, if you've been RP, everyone lost, bro. Like, told you, bro. It don't get nowhere, bro. 100%. Insane.
Back out, slap it out, short but I bang it, pack it out. Man just ping it or ching it. If I ain't did it, I still bring back it out. Files probably hit squad baby, hit squad crazy, rip man's